There's a specific kind of confusion that only people who have been close to a narcissist truly understand. It's not the confusion of a misunderstanding. It's not the ordinary disorientation of a disagreement. It's something deeper and more destabilizing. A confusion that lives in the body, that makes you question not just what happened, but whether you can trust your own mind to tell you what is real. You remember something clearly. You felt it, witnessed it, lived through it. And then someone looks you in the eye and tells you that what you remember never happened, that what you felt was an overreaction, that who you are is the problem. And something inside you starts to fracture. Carl Jung spent decades studying what happens to the psyche when its fundamental relationship to reality is systematically undermined. What he found was that the self doesn't collapse all at once, it erodes quietly over time through repetition, through specific words deployed with precision that reach into the deepest layers of a person's sense of self and loosen everything that holds it together. These are not random words. Narcissists, whether consciously or not, gravitate toward the same phrases, the same 5 constructions that have been dismantling human beings for as long as manipulation has existed. Today we look at exactly what those words are, what they do to your psyche when you hear them, and why understanding them is the first step to making them powerless. The first is, you're too sensitive. 3 words, devastating in their simplicity. What makes this phrase so psychologically lethal is not what it says on the surface. On the surface, it sounds like an observation, but what it actually does is reframe your entire emotional reality as a malfunction. You felt hurt. That hurt was real, proportionate, legitimate. And the narcissist, rather than engaging with what caused the hurt, performs a diagnostic on you, concludes that the problem is not what they did, but the fact that you feel anything about it at all. Jung identified this as an attack on what he called the feeling function, the psyche's capacity to register emotional experience as meaningful and true. When someone tells you repeatedly that your feelings are excessive, they are not commenting on your feelings. They are training you to distrust them. And a person who has been trained to distrust their own feelings is a person who can no longer navigate by their own internal compass, which is exactly the point. A person who cannot trust their own emotional responses will turn automatically to the narcissist for interpretation. Did that hurt me? Should I be upset? Was that wrong? The narcissist becomes the authority on your inner life, is the foundation of every form of control that follows. The second is, that never happened. This is the phrase that creates what clinicians now call gaslighting, but what Jung would have recognized as an assault on the reality-testing function of consciousness. The psyche's ability to anchor itself in shared, verifiable experience. Memory is not a recording. Jung knew this. Memory is reconstructive, contextual, emotionally shaped, and that makes it vulnerable. When someone with authority in your life tells you consistently that your memories are wrong, not occasionally, not about minor details, but systematically about things that mattered, your memory begins to lose confidence in itself. You start to wonder, maybe I'm misremembering, maybe I'm filling in gaps with things that didn't happen, maybe I'm unreliable. And once you accept that your memory is unreliable, you have surrendered something irreplaceable. The narcissist now owns not just the present and the future, but the past. They can revise it at will, and you will help them do it, because you have been trained to believe that your version cannot be trusted. The third is, you're crazy, or its variations. You're being irrational, you're out of control, you need help, no one else would put up with this. Jung spent his career arguing against the rigid boundary between sanity and madness, but he understood precisely what happens when that boundary is weaponized against someone. To call a person crazy is not to describe their mental state. It is to exile them from the community of credible witnesses. It is to say, nothing you perceive, report, or feel can be taken seriously because the instrument doing the perceiving is broken. This is why "you're crazy" is so effective and so brutal. It is not an argument. It requires no evidence. It cannot be disproven because any attempt to disprove it becomes further evidence. Look how agitated you are. Look how desperately you're defending yourself. Doesn't that prove something? The person who has been told repeatedly that they are crazy eventually stops reporting what they experience. Not because the experiences stop, but because they have accepted that their experiences are symptoms rather than signals. And a person who believes their perceptions are symptoms will not trust them, will not act on them, will not leave based on them. The fourth is, no one else thinks that. Isolation is the narcissist's most powerful structural tool, but it rarely begins with physical separation. It begins with this phrase, which does something more insidious. It separates you from the consensus of other minds before you've even spoken to them. No one else finds me difficult. No one else has a problem with how I behave. Everyone agrees with me about you. Jung described the human psyche as fundamentally relational. We calibrate our sense of reality partly through attunement with others. We check our perceptions against the perceptions of people we trust. We find sanity in part in being witnessed and agreed with. No one else thinks that severs that calibration process before it can begin. It tells you preemptively that the jury is already in, that reaching out to confirm your experience will only reveal how alone you are in it. So you stop reaching out, you keep it private, you carry it alone. And isolation, Jung knew, is where the psyche becomes most vulnerable to the reality it is offered by the only person still present. The fifth is, after everything I've done for you. This phrase operates differently from the others. Where the first four attack your perception, this one attacks your worth, your right to have needs, your legitimacy in asking for anything at all. What it does psychologically is install a debt that can never be repaid. The narcissist positions themselves as your benefactor, your rescuer, the one who has sacrificed and given and loved beyond what was reasonable, and positions you as the ungrateful recipient who has the audacity to want more, to complain, to leave. Jung identified this as a corruption of what he called the reciprocity principle, the healthy expectation that relationships involve mutual giving and receiving. When that principle is corrupted, when one person reframes all giving as sacrifice and all receiving as debt, the other person loses access to their own needs. They begin to experience wanting anything as greed, as cruelty, as proof that they are, as suspected, fundamentally difficult to love. And a person who believes they are fundamentally difficult to love will stay in almost any situation rather than confirm that belief by being alone. Here is what Jung found when he studied how the psyche recovers from sustained reality distortion. The damage does not heal through argument. You cannot logic your way back to yourself after prolonged gaslighting. The intellectual understanding that you are manipulated does not on its own restore your trust in your own perception. What restores it is simpler and slower. It is the repeated experience of being believed, of saying this happened and having someone respond, I believe you, of saying I feel this and not being told you feel it wrong. Recovery is relearning to treat your own perceptions as evidence rather than symptoms. It is the gradual, unglamorous work of re-inhabiting a self that was systematically evacuated, of noticing what you feel before checking whether you're allowed to feel it, of remembering that your memory, imperfect, human, emotionally shaped, is still yours. Jung called the process of becoming whole again individuation, the return to a self that belongs to itself. That does not require external permission to know what it knows. If any of these 5 phrases have lived in your life, if you recognize them not as abstract examples, but as things you have heard, absorbed, believed, then know this. The confusion you felt was the correct response to being confused intentionally. The self-doubt was not weakness. It was the natural result of sustained, deliberate pressure applied to the most vulnerable parts of your psyche. You were not crazy. You were not too sensitive. You were not difficult or ungrateful or unreliable. You were a person whose reality was under attack, And the fact that you are still here, still trying to understand what happened, still reaching toward clarity, that is not damage, that is survival. And it is, Jung would tell you, exactly where healing begins.